Hey everybody, Keisha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin.
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the CARES Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the CARES Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the CARES Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Elizabeth Willie, and she is a mother that is now in Washington, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
That was in Idaho that had, a terrible experience in her town with being abused by her ex. Her children have been taken as a result of it, affect the abuse, the judicial system, the law enforcement, church, all kind of involved in this whole situation and to destroy her children and so forth. And obviously Stephanie Henson, who is co-hosting with me today. And so, Elizabeth, you want to kind of just introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm a mother of five. I was married to my ex for 17 years, and I'm fighting to get my children back.
All right, so let's kind of go back a little bit because I know we talked and we you were on the stream with me the other day, and I
Yeah,
was like, "What?" So
yeah.
because this is bad. So
Mhm.
you had your before you kind of got to the stuff with your ex. Want to kind of give us a little bit of backstory about your town, where you went to church and what your experience was, because this is kind of
Yeah,
important because as we go along into the story.
right. So I was born into the LDS church. It is all I've ever known as a child. And growing up in the church as a girl, you're taught basically in order to get into heaven, one of the things you need to do is you need to get married and get sealed in the temple. Otherwise, you won't be in heaven. And you're taught heavily that your purpose is to be a mom and a wife. So much so that by the age of 12, 14, they would have us write letters to our future husband. So it was very ingrained in me that that was my purpose. That's,
Just got a question.
well,
What do you mean
yeah.
write a letter to your future husband?
Yeah, basically telling them like kind of about what kind of man they would be and how you're grateful for them and what kind of wife you want to be to them.
Is this to like a person that they had set out, or just somebody?
No,
It,
no, just to whoever it could possibly be.
okay.
You still have your letter? Did you do is it keep them and show them your husband someday, or how does that?
I
You just have them
never
for your.
showed him. I think I stumbled across it when my mom gave me a bunch of my old childhood stuff. I have no idea where it is right now. I didn't care.
Yeah,
I've been kind of over it since I was 17. So,
yeah.
So continue. What will describe this because I mean this is probably good for the
mhm,
people to hear.
right. So instead of preparing to go to college and to have a career, I was preparing to be a wife. And you start to fantasize about it because that is the greatest thing you can do according to the church. And they also talk a lot about how you are to obey your husband and how family is first. And I do believe family is first, but there is a stigma on divorce in the church. It is very frowned upon. And if you get if you get married in the temple,
Describe
which is completely separate
from the temple.
from a normal state union, even if you were divorced, but in the government you're considered divorced, you have to apply to the presidency of the church to get your temple marriage annulled. And a lot of people that's turned down. I did not get married in the church. I was not allowed to be sealed because I was pregnant when we got married and you had to wait like a year and be going to church regularly. I did not.
I just want to kind of interject in here. You
Hmm.
see, they didn't say something that was completely false, but they twisted it in a very bad manner
Yeah,
because the greatest job on planet Earth is being a mother. It is.
right.
That's the number two job is being a father. Those are the two most important jobs that we have to fulfill. But they twist it in a manner that it makes you to be a doormat and not a person. But that's not the way
Yeah,
that it's supposed to be. So they take a natural desire for a woman to want to be a wife and a mother, and they use it as a means to do something that it was never intended to do. This is very wrong. I don't.
Right.
I feel like those some women are not meant to be moms. I mean, I'm just because I know my sister for the longest time did not want to be a mom, and it's not everyone's purpose. Some people's purpose is just to be like a side mom, like an aunt, or like a somebody who is just there to nurture and to take care of others. And we all have a
Right.
different role that we play. So, I mean, I thought the same thing. Being a Christian, I thought my role was to get married, have a husband, take care of my husband, you know. And so I was the same as you. Like I raced into a marriage that I should not have been in, and I'm happy I am now because I have my daughter. I'm very grateful, but it was not a good situation. And I thought that was, and he was military, you know, I was very conservative and we just fit worldly views. We fit together very well in that sense. But once we got together, it was not, it was very toxic because then he did want to control me. And I thought I had to submit to him. And by submitting to him, I would allow him to talk to me in such a demonic, like belittling tone where I was like, this isn't what I want me or my daughter. This is not, I don't want a man to ever talk to me or my child this
I,
way. And I can't put up with that.
I,
So I will say if there's something with the churches and they
I,
push that on people,
I'll,
that's the mindset
I'll
we got to.
I'll tell you the reason why. It's not just because it's an arbitrary thing, and even from just a common sense perspective. Because I sit down and I watch very intelligent women. They go out and they don't have children. Guess what? Their genes are dead. They're cut off. That brilliance is no longer in the gene pool. The purpose of progressing to have the best of humanity is to have the best to reproduce. And it is by design that they want to eliminate the intelligent genes out of the pool, especially out of the women, so that they have incapable women to raise families, which are essential to human development. This is the reason why that's done there. Not because it's just because of an arbitrary rule. It is absolutely necessary. And when you see the best genes that are just gone, you're just like, oh Lord. And all the
And
people
that's
that
different. That's
that
different, but I mean, I believe our consciousness, when we leave here, our consciousness moves on, whether it's another planetary system, or whether it's another universe, or whatever it may be. So I don't believe that you're completely dead once you die. I think that there is another way to come back. Or I mean, I personally, for me, I know Dale, you probably disagree, but I do believe in reincarnation. I do believe that our, because energy, it can never be destroyed. So whatever energy we have in this body is going to be transferred on. And so I feel like, again, not all women, not all men should be having kids. Some people don't want that. Some people can't have that. And I feel like it's really sad to make people feel shameful when they can't or they don't want to, because some people do want to be selfish. Like even the Bible says, you should know if you want to choose yourself, like you will choose yourself and that's it. Then you don't get married. That's it. You choose God, which God for me is yourself. It's your own energy that you're putting out in the world. You're showing the loving and kindness that God is supposed to show to people, you know, so we do play God. We are showing the kindness and love to
it,
people.
it,
And it's not for everybody. It's
I,
just
I,
being
I, 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 I understand that, but men generally see this very differently, and it's for the perpetuation of the species. I look at it and saying that it's better for the species, for the best and the brightest, to continue to reproduce, because the people who are not very bright and not very, so they're generally reproducing like crazy. And you look at the crime-ridden places; those places are people are having kids like crazy, and the
yeah.
people who are doing better generally aren't having kids as much, and then you're going to be overrun by them. That's not good for humanity, right? And this is the purpose for it. But well, let's continue. But yeah, sorry.
It's
So
okay.
when did your husband start? You said you were abused by your husband. When did he start? What kind of started that? Like, where did you start noticing the behaviors within your marriage that were, oh, you know, because obviously I
So,
said I noticed it too, so you kind of see things.
yeah. So my mom actually, she says she saw signs of the control before we actually got married, but there was such a short period of time from dating to marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we started dating in the end of October 2006, and
And
he
how old were you
went to
then?
base. I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he went to basic training January 1st, 2007. He came home May, and we got married 2 weeks after he came home.
Oh,
So
Right. Is
very
that,
short span of time.
did you have your
And
child by that? Just pregnant, right?
I
You
was
got married?
pregnant. I found out I was pregnant when he was in basic training. And
Oh,
for
okay.
me, I mean, I freaked out when I found out I was pregnant, and he called me, once a week. And after I found out, and I had that phone call, I was crying and bawling because I knew I had to tell him. And I got it out, and he starts shouting for joy. And I'm like,
You,
okay, this is weird. He's
yeah,
excited. I'm not excited. We're not married. I don't know you that well.
So
yeah,
just kind of before we get there, because I wanted to get a couple of things there, because you were
Yeah.
talking about how the marriage was important and what they were teaching you. So let's kind of
Mhm.
circle back, because that plays into what your
Yeah.
reaction was and how you were disappointed based on his reaction, what you were saying.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go back, because we want to go and lay that foundation, because
Right.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. You're supposed to be married before you have children, before you have sex, before you do any of that. You are supposed to be married. And in the LDS religion, you don't date to date, you date to get married. And it's frowned upon if you are dating multiple people, even if it's casual. And a return missionary, which is usually a man, comes home. He's supposed to find a bride, get married. And they do it very quickly, very young. Um,
Just
what's the average
so
age of marriage in church?
for women, it is 18, 19. For men, they were getting home at 20, age 21. Now I believe they're getting home at 20. So it's about 20 to 21 for men.
okay. So when they didn't teach you much about like sex or anything like that
No,
in
it
your
was very
family.
taboo.
And so what did you learn about your sexual experiences from?
From having them myself, from my friends. Like, I actually, my mom and dad, they didn't talk to me about it at all. It was a taboo subject. And I was 17 years old, and I had no idea what anything was at all. I didn't even know what certain words were or meant. And I had a group of friends that probably weren't the best group of friends, and they talked me into being with this guy and losing my virginity to this guy.
What,
So
what do you
it was basically transactional.
what do you mean where were you guys? Were you guys like at a party, or was it just you guys were sitting around and
We
just
were
said
at
go do
one of my
this?
friends' house.
And they're all
Okay.
part of the church. They all part of the church.
Not all of these friends. I started to steer away from LDS people as friends at that point in my life because I was seeing I was seeing a side of it I didn't like. I was still confused about it. I wasn't completely out yet. I still wanted to please my parents, and what they
Yeah.
wanted was for me to be active in the church.
So then
So,
okay, go ahead. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
yeah. So after I lost my virginity, I felt guilty because I'm not supposed to do that outside of marriage. And in the church, that is considered a sin. And when you sin, you are supposed to go to your bishop and talk to them about your sins and repent. I was 17 years old. I went in to talk to them. My parents didn't know about this because I didn't tell them what I had done. And it's upon your own devices whether you go and repent and what for. But 17 years old, going in and talking to a grown adult man, and he's asking for details, explicit details, and then also shaming me if I'm wearing something certain that you can see my breast jiggle, or my pants show my hips a little too much, stuff like that. It just made me feel really bad about myself,
Let
and
me
like it was all my fault.
let me ask you a question. How old was this man?
He was probably in his 40s
And you
at the
were
time.
17.
17. Mhm.
And what was he asking you details of your sexual experience?
Yes.
Like things like
Wow.
what you did and so forth?
Yep.
How did you feel in that
Every
moment when he was asking you that?
Very
You answered
weird.
all this.
That's the moment I answered all the questions, but that was the moment I decided this is not ever going to happen again. I am done with this church.
Let me ask you
Yeah.
a question. What was his facial expression and his body language like when you were talking to him like this?
I remember he was kind of like slouched and relaxed. And I remember, so it started him behind the desk and he moved around the desk and sat closer to me. He was still facing me. But I was very uncomfortable. I don't remember his facial expressions at all. It was pretty traumatizing.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's embarrassing, especially
Yeah,
at your age. If you know about sex, like even for me, like sometimes at 33, I still feel like a little embarrassed talking about certain people because it's
yeah,
like, oh, it is. It has been a very taboo, especially being in the Christian church, Mormon church. It is frowned upon. It's one of those things that you don't do till you're married, and no one talks about it. And so, talking like that to a grown man when you're that age, like that is embarrassing to talk like
yeah.
that.
So
Absolutely.
what else did he do that you remember during this conversation?
He told me I needed to go home and pray to God and ask God for forgiveness as well, and not to repeat the actions and to watch the way I dress.
This is, I mean, this is not a conversation a 40-something-year-old man should be having with a
A
17-year-old.
17-year-old.
He
Yeah.
should,
Yeah,
I feel like.
first of all, you don't even want to hear it. Like, you
yep,
don't. Like, if somebody got caught doing something, fine, but you understand they got caught, but you want to hear details. You don't want a mental image because somebody tells you something, it puts an image in your mind. And I know that I don't want to have no image of no 17-year-old girl that is doing God knows what. I don't want that picture in my mind, right? Like,
right.
no, that's
Most people want to know. They don't want any details.
disgusting.
They just, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, this is extremely predatory, and I'm gonna pull this up because I listened to this, and when I heard about this, I was like, okay, this is crazy. And then I heard you talk about your interview, and I was like, this is the same thing. This guy goes way off worse, but it's the same type of thing, and the
yeah.
effect that it has on him. So let's just listen to this. I mean, this is yeah. We'll pull it up and let you hear for yourself.
And I mean, this is a big reason why I did Bishop's interview, that scene for Pure Taboo.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever?
Mm-mm.
So this is like a whole.
Yeah, I actually heard a really, okay, so I think I know, like, in general what you're talking about in terms of what a bishop's interview is, because I listened to this whole NPR episode about it.
About Bishop's interviews.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just remember listening to it being like, oh my God, oh my God,
Yeah.
oh my God.
It's basically, you meet with your bishop starting at age 12 in the Mormon church. At age 12, you start meeting with your bishop twice a year, every 6 months, to discuss your spiritual progress and your worthiness, and to make sure you're, on track and everything with your spiritual goals. And during this time, they just hound you about, it's I guess similar to a confession session, where they make sure you're paying your tithing. 10% of all the money you get, you have to give to the church. And if
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And if you don't pay it, then you can't get your temple recommend. If you can't go to the temple, you can't go to the celestial kingdom. So you're essentially buying your way into heaven.
How do they, okay, so they can't actually check that you're giving 10% of your earnings, can they?
Oh, no, they'll make you show documents. And if you don't show them, then
Are you serious?
they don't, if they feel like they need.
What, they
like,
want your tax returns?
If they feel like you're lying, they can ask for it. And if you can choose not to give them, but in return, you just won't get your temple recommend.
Wow.
So yeah, they will take it to that point.
That's crazy.
But and the biggest sin you can commit in the church, if you have sex, if you're if you're in the church and you're not married and you have sex with a new guy every week and you openly tell your bishop about that, you're more likely to get excommunicated than you were if you killed someone.
Wow.
So one of the biggest things they hound you about is your sexual purity. And so I was young, and I was in one of my bishop's interviews. This was the last one I ever went to. I refused to go after this. And I had been starting to experiment sexually. And I hadn't had sex yet, but I had been fingered by someone, like, someone had fingered me. And the bishop starts asking me about this, and I told him, and then he's like, well, tell me what happened next. Like, and like and they go into detail and they want to hear everything. And during this particular meeting, I was too young to understand at the time, but now that I'm an adult, I look back and I realize what was going on, because I felt like there was something weird going on, but I didn't get it. He was jerking off under his desk because I was explaining to him what had happened to me. And that's all that, it didn't escalate from there. But it does in other situations and with other girls and boys in the church, this is like, when is this going to stop where church leaders are abusing young kids? Like, it's just, it's become a regular thing within.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how many Catholic priests do that too. When you go to confessionals and they're behind that little thing and they, you confess your sins. I wonder how many priests are back there, because you hear about these altar boys in the Catholic Church and nuns who have molested. One of my friends' grandmas was molested by a nun in the church, in the convent, So it's like, this is happening all over the place in these churches. And you think that because you're in a church, oh, that wouldn't happen. That's we're holy for God. They want you to be so holy and not have sex and do all this other stuff. But what are they doing? Like, this is traumatizing. This is predatory. This is so many things. It's so wrong.
Yeah. So I saw some your reactions during this, so I want to know what your take was, because this is disgusting. But this needs to be exposed.
It's nasty, and I have known, I'm not the only one who's had experiences like this. You do hear people talking about it more and more. But I mean, I have made some concerns because my children are still going to the church and being pushed towards all of that. And, where I don't have them, what I say to them is not soaking in, and I can't protect them. And I have a 14, almost 15-year-old daughter. And so it's like, I don't want her going in there,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I've read the Bible cover to cover, like, tons of times, and I have never anywhere seen or read anything that justifies anything like this. Right? Like, I mean, that's exploitation. Like, when I saw or hear that, what goes through my mind? Sin to the person who did it. Actually, it wouldn't be sin, because it would be justice, but you get the point. Like, you want to go and deal with people who do things like that, because that's nasty exploitation. I have a huge problem with things like this. This is why when I heard you saying this, I got very angry when I was listening to that, because that is a gross form of exploitation. And just before we take a commercial break, what other things did that, like, because you experienced something similar to that? What what other things can you tell us about that, or that resonated with what you heard the girl say?
I really felt for her, and I feel like the detail part, like, that's what gets me. I get hung up on the detail part, and it's disgusting. Like, I know he, in my interview, he wasn't whacking off, but who knows if he took that information home and did it, or went to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to hear, like what you guys were saying, I don't want to hear about a kid's, like, I get so mad when I even hear one of my children reference anything sexual, because it's like, that's not a conversation for me unless we need to have an educational conversation. I don't want to hear it. But
Yeah, I get it.
yeah.
That's this is what this and things like this set the stage for what is going on with your story, because this mindset is in people's minds, and that is, I don't care what you church you're going to, that is not sanctioned. That is exploitation. A grown man should not be listening to the details of the sexual experiences of an underage girl. That
Mhm.
is like, think about if this happened in school and some 40 something year old man came to a 17-year-old girl and was asking her the details of her sexual experiences, or in the
That'd be
doctor's
fun.
office.
The
Well,
very
they do in the
least.
doctor's office. That's the thing. The doctors do cross
Yeah.
boundaries, and I mean, even as an 11-year-old, I was told I needed a physical by a man, by a male doctor at 11 years old, forced to have a man put his fingers in my vagina. That to me is pedophilia.
I
I felt
mean,
extremely uncomfortable being violated like that. And it's not just the churches, it's the medical institutions, it's all these things that, yeah, this is not appropriate, and it's not your business what
I
I do with my body.
I'll
It
tell
isn't.
you right now that if a doctor asked my daughter when she was young about her sexual experiences, I would have went to jail on the spot.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, I'd be like, what do you
It's like science. It's for your safety. It's for medical. That's why they think
real,
they're doing the right thing. It's like
really?
it's not.
No, it's none of your business. If
Yeah.
she has a problem, she come and ask you. You don't go and probe and ask for those questions. I don't
Yeah.
care. Anyway, let's take a commercial break. You need to hear from the Pillow Man, Mr. Lindell himself, and we will come back on the other side and continue the discussion.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, My Pillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 My Pillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard My Pillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use My Pillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to mypillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all My Pillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard My Pillows absolutely free.
All right, so anybody needs any My Pillow products, you can go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use promo code Karis. So where we're at now, you have this, and this is the type of thing that they're doing with the children. Like, they're doing this with a lot of other girls, so they're preparing them for this, and then the boys are being dealt with a different way. And you ended up then meeting your ex-husband. How old were you when you met him?
I was 15 or 16 when I first met him, and he was at my school, and he ended up in my class hanging out. It was a drama class, so my teacher was kind of lax, and other kids would go hang out there. He was 16 or 17 at the time, but he knew who I was when I was 12, 13, because my dad and his grandpa were pretty good friends, and they were both big in the community for businesses. And he actually, after we were married, told me, that I saw you on this snowmobile trip we all took together, and I watched you and talked to my dad and my brother about you, and it came up that, maybe one day we should get married. And I found that odd, but, I didn't know till after we were married. And when I actually told my mom and my dad I was pregnant, because we dated a little bit in high school, but then I ended up dating someone else. I had another boyfriend, but we kind of would stay in touch every once in a while, and started really dating the end of October 2006 when I was 18. So when I told my parents I was pregnant, my dad didn't talk to me for like a month. And my mom was very supportive, and she's, when are you guys going to get married? Because that's what's expected, a gunshot wedding. So we started planning the wedding, and his grandma actually told my mom we shouldn't get married. She would not give my mom reasons as to why, but she warned her. And my mom would check in with me, are you sure this is what you want to do? And I felt like, yeah, I need to do this. I want to have a family. I don't want to raise a child by myself. So we got married.
And so then now you're how old at this time?
So I had just turned 19 2 weeks before the wedding.
See, this is one of the reasons why you need to have conversations about sexual activity with your children. Like I told my daughter when she started to get to that age, and I was like, listen, you don't want to go and have a baby. You don't.
No.
I said, because they said chances are a kid that age is not going to be around. You're going to be raising a kid yourself. And I remember what I did. I got one of my little like nieces and nephews to come over for the weekend, and I got my daughter to take care of the child, and I sat there and let her take care of it the whole time. And when she asked for help, I was like, no, right? And then at the end of the weekend, I said, when you have a child, that's what's going to happen. Except you won't have anybody; they won't be able to go home. And she was like, I get it. Right?
That's very good. Yeah.
Right? Because
yeah, that wasn't the case for me though. So when I was 12, my parents kind of started over. They adopted 3 boys, and I was babysitting all the time. I was carrying one on my hip all the time, and I was very natural at it. And I mean, it didn't.
I was the same as you. My dad got remarried and had boys, so I was the same way. I love babies. I couldn't wait to be a mom someday. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you probably got the same. You probably want to be a mom someday, and I mean, it happened sooner than you thought. So it's just that's part of what happens. Is some women they end up getting pregnant early, and you're not going that boat.
Yes, but if you teach the child about the responsibility that goes about it, it helps them to make better decisions, right? Obviously you're not going to be perfect, but when you don't say anything, right? Yeah. It doesn't help them, and then you put them in the situation to just start learning things just by experimentation. Like, I got pregnant. What do you mean I got like? They didn't even understand that consequence. Because exactly.
They didn't even know you were doing that or interested in that. But I will say, and I'm sure you can attest this, Elizabeth, as a female, right? We do have hormones just like boys do, and we do get curious, all that stuff, especially when they're doing that. We do want to have sex that, because we are curious about it, and it's not something that should be shamed. I think that sex is very healthy, and I personally don't think there's anything wrong with multiple partners, not at once. I'm not saying at once, but I just feel like you need to figure out what you like and what you feel comfortable with. And sometimes you'll sleep with somebody and you'll really like them a lot, and then you will, and then you'll realize that chemistry is not there. Yeah. So that's how I feel about it. So I'm not someone who's like only one person the rest of your life. I don't agree with that. And I think that religion teaches you that, and they shame sex, and they shame your sexuality, and they shame all these things, and that I feel like is a form of pedophilia, because now you're shutting somebody off from.
No one should shame sex, but there's a reason why men are wired very differently than women, and the more men.
The sex we all are.
No. I'm not talking about saying that they don't want sex. I'm talking about what the effect has, because on a physiological level, when a man sees a woman naked, that woman is imprinted into his mind as his ideal woman. Then when you have sex with another woman, that woman is now imprinted over the first woman. Then you have sex with another woman, and then you have that woman imprinted over those 2 women, and then each one, and then your ideal woman is very blurred. And then men that have a bunch of women, then they keep searching for that ideal woman that is now blurred in their mind. This is a physiological response. And so it makes it harder for you to then settle down the more partners that a man has. And this is not what you want if you want to have, it's counterintuitive if you want to have a family, right? This
I
is
don't
what,
know.
what?
I feel like a lot of people though eventually realize that they don't, because I mean for me, like I had a lot of partners in the beginning part of my life. And now I'm at a point where it's like I know what's out there, I know what I have right now. And it's like it's one of those things that like, yeah, you compare it to other situations, but it's not all about the sex at this point. It's all about the connection that you have, the chemistry that you have, the love that you share for that person. And as you get older, like you don't even know who you are until you're past 25. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know a lot until even 30. I learned more about myself when I was turned 30, where you just stop caring what people think. And you really do just focus on what's
I,
best for you. And if you have kids, it's best
I,
for your kids, in your
I,
life.
I don't understand a woman's perspective, nor am I going to pretend to say that. But what I can say is, as a man, knowing
Yeah.
from experience, when a man goes and sleeps
Hmm.
with a woman, it's worse than being on drugs. He can't see properly. He can't focus properly. And a man
Hmm.
needs to learn how to study you so that he can determine whether or not he's a compatible fit for you, because he needs to learn about you so that he can draw out the best in you by looking at what he sees. When he starts to have sex right away, he cannot do that properly. He can't. And if he does it, he's not doing it to the level. And women need that emotional connection. If the man waits, he'll learn how to build that connection with you and then do the things that you need before he starts to do the things that he needs, because it will then pay attention, and men value what they work for. This is fundamental the way we are, and we're wired for loyalty. And when we sleep with a bunch of women, in the back of our mind we're disloyal and we hate ourselves because of it.
Yeah.
That's the
I
way
think
man.
women kind of feel the same way sometimes. I think women do. I mean, that's the thing is there's a shame behind that. Like, right when you sleep with somebody, afterwards you know if it was
Yeah.
right or not. I mean, you just have that feeling,
Yeah, you
and
can
sometimes,
feel it.
yeah, and sometimes you
Like
do a
even
few
in the
times.
middle of it sometimes, like
Yeah, you're like, oh,
if
what
it
are
feels
you get off.
you get like an ick and you like compartmentalize and shut off. Yeah.
Yep, I've been there. I know how that feels. And that's the thing is you learn that you're learning. I feel like this whole human experience of being here, because again, I'm not religious anymore. I think the whole human experience is getting to know yourself, getting to know what you enjoy, what your needs are as a human, whether it's sexually or physically or emotionally, because they're all very important things that we are learning about ourselves. And you have to find that right person who's compatible with you. And sometimes it takes messing up and learning from past relationships to figure out what it is that you're looking for or what it is that you want, and we do. That's how we learn, is by having multiple people in our lives that they teach us something.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, for you that might work. For me as a man, doesn't work. I need discipline. Men have to be disciplined. We have This is what we're wired for, because undisciplined men become abusers, and we can't teach
Yeah.
ourselves to be undisciplined. That's just, I mean, that's just the way we're wired. And we'll see this because all of these men that are doing these abusive things, they were all undisciplined men, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why, because when you have men that are undisciplined, we become weapons against the people around us and will hurt
Mm-hmm.
them. And that's why women can go and do things that men cannot do. And we don't want that man that gets angry and can't control himself, because he'll follow you in the face. And we don't want that happening. That's why it's more important for us, because we harm the people and we act out. So let's continue kind of going on with what you're saying, because you're now, when you're meeting with your husband, he comes in and he starts to, you guys were what? He was in the army, or sorry, in the army? And then,
In the National Guard.
yes, and then he went away, you guys got married, and then things began to happen when you got married.
Yep, the day we got married, I started to see a different side of him. And the control started to escalate. So I couldn't make phone calls even to my family members without him standing next to me listening in. I couldn't go places without him blowing up my phone, texting me, telling me I need to get home. I've been gone too long, even like scheduled appointments, like a nail appointment, which I told him will be 2 hours. Within the first half hour, he's blowing up my phone. You need to get home. Why aren't you home? And he'd start to accuse me of actually cheating on him because I was gone too long. He put trackers on me that I didn't know. He actually, he's a coder. He's a computer coder, and his forte is actually Apple and Mac. So he cloned my phone. So he could see exactly what I was doing on my phone. He could even like go into anything he wanted, my text messages, emails, change my passwords. He could do anything on my phone. I had no idea it was cloned at all until I think I sent one of the police reports to you where it's actually talked about for the first time. I don't remember. It was probably 2020 by the time I found out that stuff was happening with my phone. But he actually had started doing it in 2009 after.
Did he ever confront you? He was sing on your phone? Like, whatever. Like, how did you start to find out?
So it was always weird because he'd ask me about certain conversations I had like with my mom or my sister or something, that where I was saying something about him, and I was like, how would he know? And he would just be like, he wouldn't tell me how he knew. He'd just be like, oh, I just kind of had a feeling, and you just confirmed it.
Well, I mean, that right there, run.
Right.
Run. There's that's insane. Like,
that's scary. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes. There's something.
Privacy. It's a total invasion of privacy as a female, especially because the conversations I know I have with my mom and stuff. You're calling to vent. You're calling to confide in somebody, and to have someone listen in on your conversations. That's just a major invasion of privacy. It's a very icky feeling, and I can't even imagine how we go through that. You know, because like then you think, well, what did
I learned quickly. I couldn't say anything.
The premeditation behind this, because men, we think things multiple steps ahead. We think about he understood what he was doing. This was it was done on a whim. This was premeditated, calculated to do this. This is predatory nature on a next level. You cannot.
What is he doing to your daughter? Is he doing this? I mean, that's the thing. Is that something now you think about your daughter? Is he going to do this to your daughter and try to control everything she does and control her?
He has them all. He tracks them all.
Oh my gosh.
He tracks them all. I mean, there was an incident with my oldest son the other day. He called me because he was upset about something his dad was saying to him. And he got back to his grandparents' house because it's a whole nother issue. But his dad was there, took his phone, shut it off. And I said, hey, did you take his phone? He goes, yeah. I was like, well, he should be able to communicate with me anytime he wants. And he goes, I'll have him call you later tonight. He called me, and he wasn't speaking full sentences. He was mumbling. I was like, are they listening to you? No, I gotta go. He calls me the next day. He's like, yeah, Mom, they were listening. I couldn't talk.
That's
so
scary.
He does do this to my children.
Okay, so this is extremely disturbing. But this, as you listen to what Elizabeth talks about, you'll start to understand why. So we're gonna want to what is his ties? Because you talked about him in relation to the church and the community. So you want to give us a little bit on that?
So in the LDS community, the Willie Handcart Company is very well known. His great-great-grandfather was actually in charge of the Willie Handcart Company, hence the name Willie, and had a very heavy role in the church. I'm not exactly sure what the role, but it's heavy. And his grandfather had a lot of businesses in this town. It's a smaller town, and he was very well known. His entire family was very well known. They see your last name. Oh, are you related to so and so?
So he is well known, like went back a long time into the church. This guy is demonstrating an extreme level of controlling behavior and so forth. This is concerning. you started to get abusive behaviors from the day that you got married. What did he
Yeah.
start doing that day? Like the day you got married?
So, yeah, the day we got married, we went to Dunny's in between the reception and the nuptials. And his dad and mom were there. And all of a sudden, his dad and him started talking about my breasts. And that's not exactly abusive, but it's not normal. And
Uncomfortable.
yeah, very uncomfortable. And I was like, where's this coming from? Like, this isn't the person I know.
Yeah.
But hindsight, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
But literally the next day, he went out with his friends drinking, and this became very normal for him to go out drinking every night and not come home till 3, sometimes 5, 6 in the morning. I was pregnant. We were living at his parents' house the first couple weeks of our marriage. So when he did get home, his mom did tell him, this isn't right. You should be here with her. But once we moved to our apartment, if he came home and I've tried to talk to him about it, say, I don't want you out drinking. Can you stay home and be with? I would get screamed at, yelled at, berated. I'm trying to control him. He used very foul language, the C word a lot.
That's military man.
All the arguments were about him going out and drinking and me feeling abandoned, which is normal. I was young and pregnant, and when I got married, I thought I was going to have a partner who was going to be there for me.
That's what you think,
Wasn't there for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I couldn't go to my parents' house and stay there because that would make him look bad. So I just had to sit there alone. My mom was starting to see these things and pick up on it. Even though I wasn't speaking to her about it, she was very, very intuitive and very aware. But what was that?
No, I was saying we're gonna run up on times here, so I was gonna just kind of wanted to just interject here, and then I'll get you to kind of let people know where to reach you, and then we'll have a short break and come back again on the other side and pick it up. But this is one of the reasons why the time to wait is that people can only hide who they are for so long. So if you wait before getting involved with someone, you'll have a better opportunity to see their character. And if somebody's not willing to wait that time for them so that you can see clearly, because let's be real, when you start having sex with someone, you're going to start having feelings for them, especially if you have a child with them. Then it creates this this additional desire to keep making something work. But if you wait and look at the person, then you can assess. Obviously, you're not going to do it 100%, but you're going to have more success than you are failures. And then you can proceed, because when you have children, like, this is a situation that nobody should be in. Like, this angers me. I'm sorry. So before we close on this side of the section, tell people where they can help you. Like, I need to pray to Jesus, honestly. Right. Just listening to this.
Yeah, so I do have a TikTok account. It's called Pass the Torch, where we are raising awareness on matters of domestic violence, abuse, the courts failing the people, CPS, all of that. So you can reach me there. We talk to people, take their stories, and are just trying to raise awareness and get some education out there to help prevent this from happening to other people.
All right, thank you. And we're gonna close here with a prayer here, and then you're watching on live stream, you'll just hang out a few minutes, and we'll be back. And if you're on Intel TV, you'll see this the next day. I mean, this is not what families should be doing. I don't care what you believe or anything else like that. Abuse should never happen, right? People need to be. I don't have to like what you're doing, but you can't abuse people. Period. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Abuse is never acceptable, and anybody who sits down to say it is, no. The answer is no.
Yeah.
So, I'll close here with a prayer. And yeah. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day, and watch over Elizabeth and her children and the situation here, and help that this would be resolved. And Lord, help the men and the women to come together to rebuild their churches, their families, their communities, their nation, and to stop this wickedness and this abuse to go on for the children and the people who are trying to do what is right for their families. Bless us and be with us this day. In Jesus' name, amen. Again, I mean, yeah, we'll stop abuse, people. Like, this is just nonsense. I mean, this is rampant. And when we come back, we're going to hear about how the judicial system, the law enforcement, and everybody else failed to protect people, and they all seem to be in bed together to do this nonsense. So stay tuned, and we'll see you guys soon.
Hey everybody, Keisha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin.
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's ilk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the Keras Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the J Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the CARES Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the CARES Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate. And we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations. And thank you for all the support. And we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello and welcome back to the CARES Project podcast. We're back here with Elizabeth Willie, and who is the mother of 5 who has been going through this horrific abusive situation, and our host, Stephanie Henson. I mean, this is one thing where, this is a situation where there's so much predatory behavior that's taken place. And because you live in a community that is very much predominantly in one church, there's a lot of predatory stuff that's going on. You start getting abused. This person has connections. You start getting, it's the drinking and so forth, the emotional abuse, and then there starts to be physical abuse and so forth. Yeah. So at one point, did you start to contact the police and say, I need help?
In 2009, so 2 years after we were married, the first time police were contacted, the neighbors called the police because we got into a physical altercation where he actually attempted to strangle me.
Wow. You're muted.
Say that again. He tried to strangle you.
Yes.
And I can you recount just for our because we talked about this before, of what happened. What did he do when he strangled you? Because there's a lot of other things that went on in what he did to you before he strangled you. Please tell us.
So before, we were arguing and he had shoved me against the door. And at that point in time, I slapped him because he had shoved me. And when I slapped him, he grabbed my hand. He used it to spin me around and hold me against him. So he was behind me holding my arm. And then he took me and he put his other hand behind my neck and he shoved me out onto the pavement. And I got back up and he grabbed me with both hands around my neck and started to strangle me as he shoved me again. And then he actually held me down on the pavement with his entire body as his hands were around my neck.
So he was like trying to kill you. I mean,
That's how it felt.
you could have
Yeah.
you could have died,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like he threw you down on the pavement, he choked you, then you got up, he's choking you, and you back down on the ground while he's choking you. Like
And then
I
there's the neighbors, right? So what the neighbors say about it? They're going to call the
The
cops.
neighbors heard it and they saw him actually throw me out and get on top of me, and they called the cops. Before it escalated to that point, though, so there was a verbal argument started. He he got a drink from the gas station, came back, the argument continued, and he had pulled out a revolver at that point. And there was one bullet in there, and he said, "I'm going to play Russian roulette." And then he set the gun down, and that's when everything got physical.
On himself or on you? He used to play Russian roulette.
At himself.
Oh, okay. I think that's how these. I don't know what it is with military men, but I noticed when they go to boot camp, there's some type of psychological warfare. And these men that come out of there, this is a trend with military men. This is why I used to be a huge supporter of the military, and just seeing how these men act and what they do, and this like emotional manipulation where they're not scared to die now, and they're gonna threaten their lives just to see if you feel bad. Like that is emotional abuse, because no one wants to see someone's brains get blown out. I don't care if I love you or if I want to be with you or not. No one wants to see any of that. And that is totally emotionally abusive to you as a woman, and as as a partner, as a father of your kid. You only have one kid.
It's not just emotional
At that
abuse.
point, one child, yes.
It's psychological abuse. Like, I mean, it's mentally not just emotionally, but it's mentally damaging your mind. Like it's designed to break you down.
Right.
And
so
they don't have.
At that point, he actually he grabbed my child. He had a child from a previous relationship that was there as well. He grabbed her. He fled. The police were able to stop his vehicle at gunpoint because they didn't know if he had a gun or not. And they arrested him on site. My mom came and got me and my son, took us home. And his parents got his daughter. And the police put a criminal restraining order on him while they took him into the jail.
I just want to ask a question. How tall and how large is your ex-husband?
He's 5'11". So he's only a couple inches taller than me. I'm 5'9", but I was about 106 pounds at the time, and he was about 150, 160.
Okay, and he was somebody who was trained in the military. I mean, that can kill people. That's what they train them to do.
He was very muscular.
Yes, and regardless, even if you're the same size as him, it's still not a contest, right? Not. So this is okay. So were the police called that day?
Yeah.
Okay, so
they arrested him. Yeah, he went to jail that night.
How long was he in jail for?
The night he posted bond or bail, his parents did, and he was charged with domestic battery, but he ended up pleading disturbing the peace.
Okay, so they let him discharge it in the courts.
Yeah, but from that night, I have a bulge right here that is still palpable, and I had spinal leakage that continues to be an issue throughout my life.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. The law enforcement, were they part of the church that you dealt with?
I'm sure some of them were, yeah. It's about 90% of the community is part of the LDS Church.
Was the judge?
Yes.
Okay.
And the attorneys, my attorney and his attorney.
So the attorneys, the judge, possibly some of the law enforcement.
Yeah.
So now you're in this situation. He has strong ties. He gets something where he should be charged with like attempted murder or something like
Right.
this, and he gets disturbing the peace.
Yeah. Put on probation for 2 years.
And
That's
you
a
have
slap on the wrist.
physical damage and leakage from your spinal cord
Yeah.
in your neck. That's permanent damage, and he gets
Yeah.
disturbing the people. Just want people to understand this, right? And so then what continues then to happen with
So I filed for divorce the week that happened for the first time. And I was living with my parents, and they hired an attorney for me. We went to a mediation to determine if he could have visitation with our son, and it was supervised visitation. I gave him up for every other weekend for a few hours, no overnights. And he melted down during that mediation, which made me feel bad for him. So, and at that point in time, we have a child together. I'm pregnant. I know I'm pregnant. He doesn't know this yet. I end up reaching out to him, even though there's a restraining order, because of the whole breakdown during the mediation. And we did end up sneaking out and meeting up one time, and then a few months go by and we go to court for divorce. My attorney and his attorney go in and have a private meeting with the judge, and they come out. At this point in time, I'm still wanting to get divorced. And they tell us both, we think you should work this out for your family. She's pregnant. I don't know how they knew I was pregnant. I hadn't really told anybody at that point in time. But a judge is saying I should work it out. Two attorneys are saying I should work it out. I'm very emotional and very raw. Like, I'm still in shock for everything. It doesn't even feel real. Like, I got to a point where I was like, that didn't happen. It was disbelief. Did I imagine it? Like, even going back and reading the police reports over, it's, oh my gosh, that happened. And there's parts I don't remember that I read and like, oh my gosh. So I said, okay, give it another go.
Okay, that, first of all, they shouldn't have said that. First of all, they know you're traumatized. It would have been different if they said, okay, go get help, deal with this situation, stay separated, then figure out what you need to do in order to move forward when you're in a better space, right? They not push you, go back into that situation while you're still under duress. That is, that's unreasonable, right? That is unreasonable, because they know that you're traumatized, regardless of that situation, right?
Yeah.
That wrong move, 100%.
Right. So I go back with him. He later finds out he's being deployed to Iraq. So, during this time, I think it was like he had a 10-month notice at that point. So in between the notice, I'm pregnant still, and we get in a lot of fights. And a lot of fights seem to happen in the car for some reason. So I hated being in the car with him. I felt trapped. He would either stop the car, make me get out, and walk wherever I needed to end up being, even if that was home, or he would drive recklessly on purpose, speed up, shake the steering wheel. So there was one argument where he told me to get out of the car. I got out. He drove to his parents' house and dropped my son off there. I kind of figured he was going to go to his parents' house, so I walked there. I was pregnant and I walked there. And his mom told me my son wasn't there, and then I needed to get off her property. I needed to leave. But I knew my son was there. So I called my dad. He came. He called the police. And ultimately, the police made them give me my son. And he shows up while the police are there saying, "Where have you been?" Screaming at me, saying he's been driving all over town looking for me. And there's no way I walked there. Someone had to come pick me up and give me a ride. And I was probably cheating on him in the middle of that. And my dad and him at that point, they got in a verbal altercation. And he quickly just went into his parents' house. My dad's a big guy compared to him. He's a scary guy when he's mad. So I go back to my parents' house and I stay with them until the baby is born. And he starts to convince me that he's going to go to therapy. He's going to change. Every time there was a big fight, he wanted to take me to dinner. He'd buy me gifts. "I'm so sorry. Everything's going to be different. You're really important to me." I buy it because we have 2 kids together now. I want a family to work out. Divorce is bad in the church. Like, our families are tied in the church. Even though we're not active, we're not going, it's still a community where you're very judged. So we live at his parents' house for a little bit before the deployment because he didn't want to leave me alone. And during that point in time, I get pregnant again. Our daughter is 4 months old at that time. So I have a 4-month-old baby, a 3-year-old, and I'm pregnant. I don't know I'm pregnant until after he deploys. During his, what was that?
No, I'm sorry, I'm fuming listening to this. I mean,
I
this,
always seem to get pregnant when I'm trying to leave.
Is that how it works?
but
It is.
but the things that were being said, like, you're traumatized. This
You
should
love
not.
mommy.
This should not.
Yeah.
This shouldn't happen. Like, you should have had the space to go and heal. They're using and taking advantage of the trauma that you're having in order to get what they want and being manipulating you and all that kind of stuff. This is I've seen this happen too many times. This is just disgusting. But go ahead.
So I is deployed. My pregnancy is high risk. So I am taking a bunch of medications to try to prevent going into preterm labor. And we schedule his, he got his leave. He got to come home for a week around when they think the baby's coming. So he comes for leave and I have the baby and the baby's put in the hospital. So they give him an extra week or stays in the hospital. He was premature. His lungs weren't developed. So he was in the NICU. And during this time, I only got to stay at the hospital 3 days. My baby stayed 11 days. So I was going to the hospital, feeding him, pumping, going home, back and forth. And then he goes back to Iraq, and I'm still at his parents' house. After I bring the baby home, it was within a week of bringing the baby home, I found emails back and forth between him and his mother saying, "I know she's crazy. I'm sorry. Just deal with it until I get home. Make it work. It'll be okay." So I see that and I'm like, okay, you think I'm crazy. What am I doing sacrificing and staying here? I'm going to go be with my family. And at that point, they had moved to Washington. So I was now in town alone with his family. So my dad hired someone to come get me, and we go to Washington. My baby ends up having whooping cough, so I go to the hospital with the baby, and he's in there for another 11 days. During that time, somehow my ex convinced the military to let him go home early. Not only go home early, but go to Fort Lewis, which was 2 hours away from where my family lived. So it's getting close to the time our child was having a birthday, our oldest son. It was almost his birthday, and my ex called me and said, "Hey, I'm in Fort Lewis. I know you're only 2 hours away. Can we celebrate his birthday together?" Which I thought was reasonable. So while I am on base with him, he talks me into staying the night with him. telling me, he's getting help through the military. All these things are going to happen. The same story, but I buy it. And I end up going back to my parents' house the next day, telling my parents I'm moving back to Idaho. My aunt had just moved there, so I was going to go stay with her for a little bit. So I moved back. I stayed with her a couple weeks before I moved back in with him. So far, 2007, 2010, and now 2011, I've had a baby. I get pregnant again and have a baby in 2014, and my last 3 pregnancies are all bed rest, medication, 5 different medications for each one. So I need a lot of help. And during those pregnancies, he was calmer. Things were better. He treated me a lot better for the most part while I was pregnant and on bed rest. But after I had my 4th baby, he told people I was either postpartum or bipolar, and he was starting to set a narrative that I didn't know about. He was telling my family these things and his family these things behind my back. We got in a fight where I was going to take the kids and leave, and he ended up calling the police, telling them that I was threatening him with a gun, and he actually used the audio tape from one of his exes where she stated she wanted him dead and was going to have him killed, and said that was me. So the police took me to the psych ward, and he came and got me the next day, and he used that against me for the rest of the marriage.
How long ago, what year was that when that happened?
It was 2013.
And he was already still monitoring everything that you were doing at that point in time anyway. And so this guy was controlling and very abusive and so forth. I just want, we're going to, and how many times have you had to have police contact since that first time up to this point?
I have no idea. Too many times to count. I know looking back between conversations with me and my last attorney, she probably had 30 different police reports, at least.
Wow. That's crazy. And this is when you have somebody that's doing these types of things and demonstrating an escalating pattern of violence, this is very, very problematic, right? And I mean, we're gonna listen to this like you had a military person that was like, he picked you up, he slammed you down, he's choking you and stuff like that. This could have went sideways very quickly, and he's demonstrated that he's got abusive behaviors. He's assaulted you, and you said that he had sexually assaulted you at some point as well. Was that, when was that? Was that before, or is it
that was after all 5 children were born.
Okay, so we'll get to that later, but with domestic violence, this is what happened to this woman when she had left, and this guy plowed her face. And this is what people need to understand, that this is not a joke, right? Let's listen to this.
Now, you said that after Corey leaves, you remember the defendant running at you.
Yes.
And then you remember, the next thing you remember is being in the shower.
Yes.
Do you remember how you got in the shower?
I don't know how I got in the shower.
Do you remember, when you were in the shower, did you have clothes on or off?
They were off, and the shorts that I was wearing were in the shower.
When you were in the shower, what was the defendant doing?
He was going through my phone and yelling at me through the glass door.
What was he yelling about?
I don't remember exactly what he was yelling about anymore.
At that point in time, did you think you had been hit?
Yes, I could taste blood in my mouth, so I knew I had been hit in the face. And I also I don't remember how I got in the shower.
What's the very next thing you remember?
I remember waking up on the floor. I was laying on my back, and he was sitting next to me and going through my phone. And anytime he would see something that he didn't like someone I had followed on Instagram, he would hit me. I remember at some point while I was laying there, feeling the tooth on my tongue. I don't know how many times he hit me.
Were the hits with an open hand or a closed fist?
I can't be sure.
And so every time he found something he didn't like on your phone, he would strike you to the face?
Yes.
What's the next thing you remember?
Past that, I just remember being on all fours right in front of the shower, like I was about to stand up, and he kicked me in the ribs so hard that I fell over and began convulsing.
Did you ever ask him for help or to stop?
Just after this, I told him that I needed help, because I genuinely felt like I was going to die at this point.
What did he say to you?
He told me that nobody could help me. He told me that they were just broken ribs and there's nothing they can do to heal that anyway. He told me, he threw the dog's blanket on top of me because he thought I was just cold. That's the reason I was convulsing. So he threw the dog's blanket on top of me.
At any point in time, did he ever use any weapons against you?
Yes, he did.
Can you explain how?
He had a knife. It was one of my kitchen set knives. It was a black handle with silver rivets. And he would push it into my ear. He would push it into my hand. He sawed off my hair. He cut up all of my wigs because he always hated my wigs. He cut my head.
With the knife?
Yes.
When he was digging, like you said, he's digging it into your ear, into your hands, into your head. Is he still angry? Is he still yelling at you?
Yes, he is.
What is he yelling? What is he so angry about at that point?
I don't know what he's still angry about. I don't remember what he was yelling at me. I just remember him still being so angry he broke the handle off of the knife and still continued to use the knife blade in his hand to push it into me.
To push it into the parts that you were talking about
Yes.
before. Is there a good amount of blood on your face and your body?
I couldn't see any blood. I was just looking up.
Is there come a point where he tells you that he's going to have to kill you?
Yes.
What does he say?
He looks at me and he says, "Now I have to kill you. I've gone too far. You can't be seen like this. Everyone's gonna know."
This is what is the end result when you allow things like this to happen. This is what men see as outcomes because they know what's happening is there's an escalating pattern of violence that is left unchecked. This woman, like, if I don't know if you notice the face, her face is not the way it would look. If you go find this woman online, right, and you look at her face there and you look at her face now, she looks very different. And even when she talks, you can tell that she's not the same. And this is the kind of yes, the guy almost killed her.
Yeah.
This could have been when that guy picked you up and started to strangle and threw up down on the cement. What happened if you split your head open and all that stuff? You're lucky that that's the only thing that you had. You should have never gone there. And then they gave him disturbing the peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's disgusting. I'm sorry.
It gets worse. But, yeah.
Exactly. And this is the problem. This is the judicial system and law enforcement and the church and these guys all working together to allow this to happen.
It's these families with money, because my ex is the same way. He had a horrible anger issue, would punch holes in the wall, and his family would always beg me to go back to him too. He never hit me because I think he knew he couldn't hit me because I'm a tough woman, and he knew if he even tried to even ever hurt me, I could beat the shit out of him. So he knew better. But I'm sure with your partner's family, because they have money and because they can get him off the hook and the attorneys and things like that, they have this power. and then they are looked at as like they're on pedestals in the community because of the networking they've done, and because you said his family has businesses and everything else, that they get away with it. So go on with what happened after that. Like what happened to your abuse further?
Well, so bring up his family. Every time we'd actually have a big argument, he'd call them to come talk to us. His dad would be pretty calm and listen to both sides, and he'd always, he convinced me that Matt's gonna do better and that he's gonna keep him in check. But his mom, the funny thing is, she would call me all the time because he would get in verbal arguments with her, and he says horrible things when he's in these arguments. She called me crying, saying he needs help, I don't know what to do. But anytime it was me and him fighting, she was on his side. I was crazy, I was the problem, I was immature, I need help, I need to leave. If his dad even sided with me a little bit or understood me at all, he would freak out on his dad and accuse his dad of wanting to sleep with me and being incestual and sick. He'd send rage texts to my dad, saying my dad has raped me, my dad's incestual, my dad wants me.
Wow. Did he ever hit you further on? So what happened after that then?
What was that?
He ever hit you again after that first incident? He has hit you before, smash your face. What exactly? Grabbing your arms?
He did not smash my face in. So
you what? Say that. Say that again.
I said he did not smash my face in. No, he didn't do that. But the verbal stuff escalated, and I got to the point where I was afraid to even go to bed without turning a recording on. So I recorded everything. But he got to a point too where he'd pick fights and record me because I was reactive abuse. Mm-hmm. So after our last child was born in 2014, things were calm for a little bit. Not long. I honestly don't remember 2015 to 2018. I don't remember any of it.
Was part of depression type thing, or what exactly? You just were kind of out just.
I think that I've suppressed a lot. I was so broken down and so alone and so afraid to talk to people. I was self-isolating. Most of the time I couldn't get up and get dressed. I was hardly making. What was that?
Sorry, we just need to take a short commercial break and we come back and talk about this. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Okay.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Yeah, so if you need any of the MyPillow products, go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use promo code Karis so that we can continue to do this work and expose this kind of filth that drives me nuts because I can't stand this. But support a good cause. Get yourself something that'll help you anyway. Getting back to this, what we're seeing here is a trauma response, and they're taking advantage of the fact that you're traumatized, putting you in these situations. His family's also helping the situation, you're never getting the stability that you're needing, then he's beginning to provoke you so that you then react. And once you react, you're going to be able to do this. Like, it's not that men are very adept at doing this, they're very skilled at drawing out the worst in the woman. And it's because they're more emotional by nature. But then you're under that circumstance of being abused for so long. It's not hard to get an abused person to react. It isn't. Right? And so then they do this to trap you, then to create a narrative. But then you had the lawyers, the judge coming together and says, go back into the marriage, not even saying, go get help, stay away, figure out what you need to, so that you can be in the best situation to make decisions on how to go forward. Now, if they said that, that would that would not be unreasonable, because you're away, you're going to get whatever you need to do. And if they need to structure something so the kids could see each other, if they're not going to be in danger, that's a different story. But they didn't tell you that. They said, go back in the situation. Right?
Yeah.
And
Well, I was also very financially reliable on him because I wasn't allowed to have my own bank account. I wasn't allowed to have cash. I wasn't allowed to make any purchases without his permission and without him. Like, if I went to the grocery store, I'd have to bring the receipt back so he could itemize everything and see exactly what I bought. So there was a few, like, I went to a shelter a few times, but you have to find your own place. You're only allowed to stay there for a few days, and then you're expected to find your own place. They don't really help you with resources, learning how to get a job, because I also was not allowed to go to school or have an education. I had to stay home. Every time I brought up the possibility of me going to school, it was quickly shut down with, you're selfish. I'm going to school. I'm providing for the family. Your job's to stay home with the kids.
When I look, I wasn't going to church at this time or none of that kind of stuff. And when my oldest daughter was born, I mean, with her mom, I'd go to work and be like, here, go take money, grab $500 out of my wallet, my pocket, go to the store, get stuff, right? She'd spend it all and like buy stuff. I'd be like, why? But like, I didn't, like, whatever. I'm like, here, take money, go out with your friends. I'll watch your kid. Get out of here. Take a break. Right? Like, stuff like that. Because why would you do, like, when I hear stuff like this is foreign to me. I don't understand. Right?
It's not to me. No, this is what I'm telling you. And I know that, Elizabeth, this is, I mean, I've been in relationships like this. Like, what you're explaining, and I want you to finish your story because we're going to run up on time here. We have about 20 minutes left. And I think you have a lot left to share what's going on with your kids. So we should really get going on you sharing the rest of your story. But this is very common for a lot of females to go through relationships like this. And it's not even just the church. It's like this societal norm of these men who they want to control everything. They want to control the woman. And then they get their families involved. It's like, it's going on my partner now. It went on my ex. It's going on with you. So Elizabeth, finish on with your custody, all this stuff, because
we're gonna get through part of it. Like, I want to show what was going on with the, like, kind of like the framework, because we're gonna bring her back again because there's more. Like, I mean, we talked before. So let's get through what was going on with, like, the law enforcement, the custody, and where you kind of get at, because we got, like, I think about 15 minutes left or so.
So with law enforcement, there were times where they were helpful, and they would come, they get me and the kids and take us to the shelter. But then there was times like in, I believe it's 2023, where he had an attempted suicide attempt, where at that point in time, there was another criminal restraining order against him for another attempted strangulation. And he had my oldest son with him, and I get a call from my oldest son saying, Mom, I'm really scared. Dad's drunk, and he has a gun. So I went to the house to pick up my son and get him out of that situation. And when I opened the door, he has a bottle of whiskey in his hand, and I could see an empty bottle on the counter, and he had a gun in his other hand. So I was telling my son to leave, to go to a neighbor's house and get help. My son was saying, "No, Mom, I'm scared. I don't want to leave." I said, "You have to leave now. I will deal with this." So he left, and I went inside, and he's going back and forth, pacing, saying he's a horrible person. Everything's his fault. He's sorry for everything, and there's no point in him being here anymore. And during this, I call his parents. I put them on speakerphone and I let them know what's going on. And they were out of town. And of course, they're saying, "Matthew, we love you. Don't do this." And he was screaming at them, "You don't love me. You don't care about me." And they didn't even sound emotional when they were telling him not to do it. It got to the point where his dad was like, "Well, you're going to do it or you're not." And so I hung up on them. I was like, they're not helping. They're making him escalate. It got to the point where he put the gun to his forehead. So I put my head behind him on his neck right here, because the way it was angled, if he shot himself, he'd shoot me. And he was saying he didn't want to hurt me at that point in time. So that was the only thing I could think of to prevent him. And I was saying, I still care about you. I still love you. Because I will always have a love for him, no matter how messed up this has been. He's the parent of my 5 beautiful children. And I recognize he has trauma too. And he chambered the gun. And I was screaming, crying, begging. And so he finally pointed the gun up, went to unload it, and it discharged into the ceiling. At that point in time, I went to go find my son, and there's lights all over me. SWAT had come. They grabbed me, put me in a car, and they asked me what happened. They told me my son was safe. They had my son, and they were going to take us home. But they didn't go check on him. They left him alone. He should have been taken somewhere to get some mental help.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. He also wasn't charged with anything. That is endangerment to a child. That's felony endangerment to a child.
Absolutely.
I also had to break the criminal restraining order to go get my child and to prevent this. Charged with nothing. The only thing that happened was, at that point in time, CPS was involved. And they said he couldn't have the children alone. Children were given to me at that point in time. And I was told I could, because I was working in Washington, I was given permission to Washington to work.
So,
yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish what you're saying.
So they started testing him, CPS, for alcohol randomly to see if he was drinking. When a few months of him being sober, up to their knowledge, because to them, the alcohol was the problem, nothing else. So if he's not drinking, the kids are safe to them. If I'm not in the home and I'm not being abused by him, the kids are safe. Even though there's been abuse towards the children, they say he's safe. They started allowing him to have 50-50 again during our CPS case.
So
shortly.
No, so they started to give him, just because he stopped drinking, or they didn't randomly test him and he didn't have the alcohol in his system. They're like, he's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get him 50-50. So how do you end up losing your kids to him?
So shortly after another divorce was filed in November, our CPS case was closed in February, because they're saying we're not going to make any permanent custody decisions. That's not in our jurisdiction. That's for the divorce judge to decide. And so all of a sudden, our caseworker changed to a new caseworker who didn't know the ins and outs of the case. And the judge quickly closed the CPS case. So my restraining order was coming. It had been a year. We were still in court for the criminal charges of attempted strangulation. And my restraining order was coming up. So my attorney said, go get a new one through the Washington court because that's where I lived. And at that point in time, I had gotten a few scary text messages from him that made me feel unsafe. And I said, I'm going to put the kids on this because I don't feel like he's safe. They're safe. So I put the children on it. I was granted it. I went back to Idaho to get the children and pack all my stuff up and permanently move to Washington because that's where my family is and that's where my job is. He got his attorney to file an emergency temporary or custody order asking for full legal and physical custody, saying I'm trying to flee with the children to Washington, that I don't really live there and that they don't have jurisdiction. So the judge holds the emergency order. It was like 2 weeks, and within that 2 weeks, he had the kids. They put that emergency stay and he had the kids. And my attorney didn't speak up for me. His attorney spoke, told lies, said I didn't live in Washington, said I had been taking the kids without permission, which wasn't true. I had a court order from the CPS judge. And that judge granted him temporary physical and legal custody at that point in time.
Was this the same lawyer that told you to go back into the? No,
different. No, this was a different lawyer.
But was he from the same town that you were at? Was he
LDS?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And so then I had no funds to get an attorney at this time. He has an attorney, I don't. I have my hearing in Washington where I ended up saying, Judge, I need to remove the kids because the Idaho judge is saying this, and those judges spoke. And he talked her into saying that they didn't have jurisdiction to make that decision. So it was thrown out and I needed to refile in Idaho, which I knew if I refiled in Idaho, it was going in front of my family court judge who has already given the kids to him. So there was no point to do it. And during this time, the judge has given me 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday, 8-hour visits. That's it. I live in Washington and I have to travel for 2 8-hour visits every other weekend now and be back in Washington in time for work. It is mentally exhausting and it financially drained me because I was having to drive all the gas, get an Airbnb, and go back and forth every other weekend. So that was a huge strain that the judge didn't care about. During all this time, my attorney was supposed to be filing for temporary custody orders to be changed to bring our evidence. She never filed anything. She asked me for my disclosures. I gave them to her. She did not file them. And then it came to a point where she withdrew, stating that I was not giving her the disclosures, which was false. I had given her all the disclosures. She was just too busy with her political career to take care of my case. So I hired a new attorney because I went to a hearing where they were all of a sudden asking for default on my case. And I knew I couldn't fight that. So I hired a new attorney. A week later, we had court about the default and it was granted. So my ex got full legal and full custody of all the kids. My oldest was not on his first petition. So within 12 hours after the judge granting that, they asked for an amended order to include my oldest son, and the judge did it without any hearing.
All right, because we're running up on time here because we're going to come back again and we're going to look at like some of the police reports. This is a long history of police reports going on, and then you're seeing that they're going after the person that is not who's the victim, and they're rewarding the aggressor. This again is insane. And so exactly, but we're seeing this repeating pattern that should be stopped, and then they protected this guy. So what do you want to say to people? Because we got like about 4 minutes left. What do you want to say to people? How can they help you again? And what do you want to say? Like, you got your couple minutes. Say something to people, and I mean, this is horrific.
The way people can help is speak up and don't let them silence you. Like I said, go join our TikTok, the Pass the Torch page, because we're bringing awareness, and I'm actually in the process of going after the judges, the lawyers, and the police, because what they did was violating my rights. And I'm a mother who's not gonna stop until I see justice and I have my children safe.
I mean, this again. This is so gross. Like this irritates me because when someone goes to get help from the places that they get help, and it was a breakdown everywhere. That is wrong. That tells me that there is a system of people that are working inside of all those areas to make sure that people don't get their children, they don't get justice, they get tortured,
Yeah.
they stay in those abusive situations. And that
Yeah.
needs to change. We can no longer have that anywhere. Stephanie, you got anything you want to say quickly before we close this down?
Yeah, Elizabeth, I feel for you. I can't even imagine. I know I've been in a situation not quite as bad as that, but because I always got out, and that's the thing is your intuition in the beginning told you to get out, and I feel that for you that those attorneys talked you into that situation. I know you're obviously happy you have your kids. You wouldn't have had the rest of your kids had you not stayed with him, but it still is one of those things that these courts get too involved in our family lives, and we know better to get out. We need to get out. When your intuition is screaming at you, we just have to make sure we follow that intuition as a woman and leave the situations. I know it's hard because you feel for them. We have this compassion for men. We want to fix them. We want to try to heal them. You know, we do care for our abusers. Like we do, but we just have to know, right? Like we have to know just to get out and to leave. And so, yeah, I absolutely feel for you. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
I want to connect with you more. I just added you on TikTok, so I definitely want to connect with you more and talk to you more about this because it's definitely very interesting to me.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
we'll have you back on again, and you can feel for. I'm gonna figure out consequences to solve this problem because we can't allow people like this to continue. I'm sorry, like no, right?
It's military. It's the military. It's these military men. I'm telling you, there's something. It's psychological warfare. What they're doing to our men in the military, it's abusive. I mean, and it's not their fault. They're being abused in the military, and then they're coming and taking it out on us. They're abusing women.
Of course they do because they own them, and then they do it to all the other men. They practice on them, and then they do it to everybody else, and they can get away with more. They can get away with more with them, and guess what? They're trained killers, right? That's a recipe for disaster. That needs to stop. Anyway, well, we're right here on time. I'm gonna close with a prayer. We just talk after this, but yeah, we need some prayer here. So let's close. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. Lord, we ask of you this day to watch over Elizabeth and her children, and Lord, the situation that she's going through, and all the people who are suffering the abuse, the men and the women that are being destroyed by these wicked, satanic devil worshippers who are stealing children and perpetuating abuse. Lord, I ask of you this day to bring the men and the women to stand up together, to do what is right, to destroy this wicked system, that we can have some semblance of normality for the children and rebuild the churches, the families, the community, and our nation. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you again next time.